Today I'm going to teach you everything about the monoliths and how you can make the best record simply by understanding all the contributing factors. And this will not only improve your record score for a bigger bonus, but also give you an in-depth understanding of all the core and hidden mechanics in the game. And so this video includes everything you need to know about potentials, trackers, disc slots, musical notes, melody and harmony scales, elements, affinity, authorization level, and much more. But don't worry, although I'm covering everything, I've organized it very carefully and logically so it doesn't overwhelm you. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Let's get started. Now, the monoliths are purely about one thing: records. And if you're new to the game, the goal in Stella Sora is to complete the monoliths and generate what the game calls records, which are like save points of your tracker builds based on the RNG and decisions you made through that monolith run. And we can compare this system to the game loop in Uma Musume, where you're basically training Umas in the career mode for other modes. Because yep, in Stella Sora, these records are there for you to use and conquer other modes in the game. And a record will also have a record score, which determines the quality of the record, but also what bonus that record will receive in exchange for reaching that score. So a record score of 8 will add a bonus of 155 attack and 1450 HP, which is also further increased by the tracker's affinity bonuses, which we will touch on later. But what actually impacts and increases your record score when you're doing your monolith runs? Well, there's actually only two things that impact it: potentials and musical notes. Let's start with potentials. Each of your trackers have potentials, being the roguelike cards, and will appear each time your squad levels up in the monolith. And all these potentials are from the tracker's potentials pool, depending on which trackers you picked for your squad. And when your squad levels up, you'll be asked to choose between 3 potentials, which will determine the direction of your main and support trackers build and be permanent for that record. Now, there are 2 types of potentials: main and support. So putting a tracker in the main slot for the monolith means that the game will present potentials from the tracker's main potential pool, and putting a tracker in the support slot for the monolith means that the game will present potentials from the tracker's support potential pool. Potentials also have 3 levels of rarity: core potentials, of which all trackers have 4 and that hold the best bonuses for them and set the build direction depending on which ones you pick and combine with other trackers. Epic potentials, these are better than the common ones and often feed into the core potentials really well. And then we have the common potentials, which are the most standard ones. Now, most often, when 2 trackers share the same element, you'll find that many potentials synchronize really well between them if you put them together. For example, unsupport core potential, Downwind Journey, that increases vantage damage for any projectiles from the main tracker that passes through it, goes extremely well with Nanoha's, whose main potentials are mainly focused on projectiles. But also her ultimate, Flowers Thrice, which creates 2 clones of herself that also use projectiles. Another example is Teresa's support epic potential card called Let Me Help, which increases auto attack damage of Aqua trackers, combined with Frisia's support epic potential called Temporal Revival that increases auto attack damage as well. Now, both of these as support slots go really well with Chitose with her main potentials, as she summons a mirror or a serpent that does auto attacks based on Chitose's attack. So you see where I'm going with this. A lot of potentials feed into each other, especially when the trackers share the same element. Now, you've seen that at the tracker potentials menu that there are 2 potential recommended builds for both main and support slots. You'll also see that during the monolith run that the game will try and recommend you certain potentials as well, but unfortunately these recommendations are not based on your entire squad synergy, so I do not recommend you follow them at the key or all the time, as you also want to build based on what your support tracker's potentials are. As we've just covered, as many can be synchronized with your main tracker. I'm not saying you need to learn them all, but just, be mindful of what comes on screen. Now, for musical notes that also contribute to your record score, they have 2 primary functions. There are 13 musical notes, of which 7 are stat bonuses and 6 are elemental damage. You will always get and see the 7 stat bonuses musical notes in all of the monoliths, but you also see +2 elemental musical notes depending on which one you selected that you can identify here. And this doesn't only tell us that there's going to be these 2 types of elemental musical notes, it's also telling us that the game wants and recommends us to bring in these 2 elemental types of trackers. Now, you can gain musical notes through 4 sources: support slot discs, monolith levels, monolith events, and the monolith shop. Now, the 2 functions of musical notes is to provide stat increases, but also for fulfilling the harmony skill activation requirements from the Runic Discs that are on the main slot of the disc combo page right before you start the monolith run. So one of the objectives when doing your monolith runs is to fulfill the activation requirements for the harmony skills on discs that are 4 to 5 star, which basically only consists of gathering multiple types of melody notes, but also amounts. And by doing this, you're not only improving your record score for a better bonus, but you're activating your harmony skills from your discs and increasing your overall stats. So musical notes are given fixed from the support slot discs, but are completely random for the monolith levels, events, and shops. So potential potentials and musical notes are the two things you need to always look at closely for making the best possible records for your trackers. And just remember, once a monolith run is complete and the record is saved, neither potentials or musical notes can be changed. But there are 4 things that will affect the quality of your monolith runs and also the records even after they have been saved. And these things are trackers, Runic Discs, Monolith Research, and Authorization Level. Let's start with tracker elements. Each tracker has 1 element and each monolith has 2 recommended elements. When selecting your tracker for a monolith run, try to focus on only one of the 2 recommended elements for that monolith to build your squad. So what I'm saying is you should build mono element teams, being teams with just 1 element. Tracker base level. You can level up your tracker using notes, which I recommend you only grab for the Menace Arena rather than going to farm it with your vigor in the bounty trials. There are also other ways to obtain notes without using vigor, so avoid bounty trials for notes altogether. Now, leveling up your trackers increases their base stats, which actually carry over in the monolith runs. And every 10 levels, you'll hit a level cap requiring tracker tier up material that you can actually get a lot from the Tyrant Growth in the missions tab or simply by using your vigor in the bounty trials. But I do recommend you try to get them from the Tyrant Growth instead and use your vigor on skill trials to level up your tracker skill to the max and the emblem trials instead. Now, if you made a record with the trackers at level 10 and later level them up to 20, their record will update too. And that's because the game doesn't save their level from when you first in the monolith, but always shows their current level. Next, tracker skill level. You also need to level up your tracker's skill, which, just like your base level, contributes to your success in the monolith, but also increases your trackers within your saved records exactly like the base level. And as I said before, you want to use your vigor on farming these cartridges as your main bounty trial priority to max out your team skills and then only then move on to the emblem farming. All skills can be maxed up to level 10, but from 6 to 7, you need materials from the proving ground to progress further. Tracker Affinity level. Now, by completing the monoliths, you can earn up to 3,000 weekly journey tickets, which can be spent in the store by tapping purchase on the main menu. Now, the 4-star Runic Discs sold there all share the same melody and harmony skills, but just with different elements and boost ultimate damage and charge speed being energy for the ultimate. But actually, the bonuses are pretty minor, and even when you are maxing them out, it's not great and not worth prioritizing. So this is what we're going to cover right now, what you should be prioritizing. Silver discs, though, used in the Runic Disc gacha, they're nice to have, but also not our main goal here either. What you really want is the exquisite gift box for 100 tickets. And I'll explain why. These boxes give random gifts that raise your tracker's affinity by 500, plus the bonus multiplier if it's one of their favorite items, which increases depending on the smiley face. Now, it's better to buy the exquisite gift boxes rather than the multiple common gift boxes, since the affinity gains are higher with the multipliers for the bigger ones and won't push you to your daily gift limit. But the reason we want to grow our affinity with our trackers as a priority is because it gives them a huge stat increase in HP, attack, but most importantly, attack percentage, which benefits your monolith runs, but also your saved records and goals in all the modes within the game. So focus on using these for your main trackers first, and then spend the leftover journey tickets on silver discs to get more discs later. Tracker talents. Each tracker has unique talents that boost their stats and affect gameplay in many different ways. And to unlock a talent, you'll need a tracker soul keys. And these are mainly earned by getting duplicate trackers through the gacha. Now you need 60 soul keys to unlock one talent, but a 5-star tracker duplicate gives 60 soul keys, so 1 dupe per talent, whilst a 4-star tracker duplicate only gives 30 soul keys, so you'll need 2 dupes per talent. And yeah, you've guessed it, talents affect the monolith, all of your records, regardless if they were activated before or after the record was saved. Now, each tracker has 3 emblem slots that unlock at different levels. You can look at these slots as gear slots, as they will enhance your tracker's abilities, and you can craft these emblems through farming the emblems trials, and when you craft them, they'll randomly generate elemental bonuses that we will get into another video because there's quite a bit to touch on there. But just know that these do increase your tracker's overall performance in all game modes, including the monoliths. For our next out of the 4 things that affect both monolith and your records, we have Runic Discs. Now for discs, just like trackers, they all have 1 element, a base level, but also a dupe system from collecting additional copies from the gacha and applying them in the Crescendo tab that will increase the bonus from the melody skill. Now for the Runic Disc slots in the disc combo, you'll get asked to equip 3 main slot discs and also 3 support slot discs, and they work differently. Here's how. The main slot disc will have their melody skill that activates automatically when you start the monolith, but only 4 and 5-star Runic Disc will have what's called a harmony skill, of which 5-star discs have 2, and a harmony skill, as we touched on earlier, only activates after you collect the required musical notes during the run, and that's where the support slots come in. Support slot discs provide musical notes that are immediately added to your note pool at the start and immediately greatly contribute to your main slot harmony skill musical note requirements. Now when choosing your disc combo for the monoliths, just like for your trackers, you want your 3 main slot discs to have the same element as your trackers, and you want your support slot discs to have the melody notes needed to activate your main slot discs harmony skills. And remember, the base level of your discs also affect your monolith runs, as well as your saved records, even after they had been saved, so always try to keep on top of those. For our third one, Monolith Research. Found in the Monoliths menu between the Monolith log and research project, think of it as a bonus tree that adds more mechanics and depth to the monoliths, but also the quality of your record score. It has 3 pages of nodes, each offering different bonuses that contribute inside and outside the monolith. And to unlock each nodes on each page, you need lingots that you can acquire in the Project Research tab by completing monolith objectives. Now you must complete all research in one layer before you can move on to the next one, but some nodes that you choose to pick first in a layer are better than others. So there is an optimal order that benefits everybody's account in the same way, and I've made the lines on which ones to focus on before reaching every big node on every page. But again, you do have to complete a full layer of nodes before moving past the chunky ones. And lastly, we have Authorization Level. Authorization Level unlocks various modes and features and is basically your account level. And why is it so important? Well, because it anchors your access to higher difficulty monoliths, so you need a higher authorization level to access higher difficulty monoliths which have more stages and will be able to grant you more potentials and opportunities to farm musical notes. Now, to increase your authorization level, you'll need to consume Vigor, which will be mostly set for now in the bounty trials. Vigor regenerates at 1 point every 6 minutes, but you can also claim up to 30 Vigor daily from friends by collecting their gifts, and restore Vigor with expiring or perma energy drinks, which I recommend you go with the expiring ones first, but also with Stellanite, which you should avoid at all costs for recovering Vigor, as that's the currency for the gacha. And that's everything you need to know about the monoliths and creating the best teams and records in Stella Sora. And by understanding how all the systems work and how interconnected everything around the monolith and records is, you're now going to be building much stronger teams for all the modes in the game. But take your time, enjoy the waifus, and learn the importance of mono-element based teams and synchronizing your potential picks throughout your monolith runs to eventually start planning your builds. Don't forget to subscribe. This was Static. Remember to have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.